Uhuru, and welcome back to Black Power Blueprint Live. I am Jamie Simpson from the Black Power Blueprint Reparations Committee here in the beautiful Aquaba Hall at the Uhuru House, which is 18th Avenue South in St. Petersburg, Florida. Tonight, we are talking about this mania of holiday consumerism that we are experiencing at this time of year versus the need for African and oppressed peoples to have control over their lives. We are very honored tonight to welcome Chairman Omali Yeshitela, leader of the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement. Uhuru, Chairman. It's a tremendous honor for us all to be here with you, and we are also honored to have with us tonight Akile Anayi, a member of the party's Central Committee and director of the party's Department of Agitprop, which includes the publication of the Burning Spear newspaper, the Black Power 96.3 FM radio station, and much, much more. Uhuru Akile. Director Akile also waged a powerful electoral campaign last year, along with Jesse Neville here in St. Petersburg, whose overall slogan was unity through reparations and radical times, radical solutions. Welcome, Comrade Jesse and Akile. Uhuru. Uhuru. We also have with us tonight Penny Hess, who is the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, the white organization of the African People's Socialist Party, working for white people's rep from our Black Power Blueprint Facebook page, but also from our Black Power Blueprint YouTube channel. Please do subscribe on our YouTube page, which we want to build during this upcoming year. Give us a thumbs up and get up to date on notifications. You can also like the Black Power Blueprint Facebook page, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. And with that, I am pleased to turn it over to the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, Jesse Neville.
Uhuru. Uhuru, everybody. I just want to join in saluting our chairman, Omali Yeshitela. We'll give another round of applause for the chairman, as well as Deputy Chair Ona Zane Yeshitela, who is not here with us tonight, but who is spearheading this amazing Black Power Blueprint project to carry out this revolutionary vision of the chairman. So Uhuru to Deputy Chair Ona Zane Yeshitela. Uhuru. So tonight's webinar is part of our kickoff for Giving Tuesday for the Black Power and Reparations campaign, funding the Black Power Blueprint project in St. Louis. This is a program that purchased abandoned buildings on the north side of St. Louis, Missouri, and with your support, those buildings have been renovated as programs for economic and political development for the African working class. The Black Power Blueprint is led on the ground in St. Louis by Deputy Chair Ona Zane Yeshitela. Giving Tuesday is today, and it's considered a global day of giving for nonprofit organizations all over the world. But this is the only one you can give to that is not just a charity organization, just another charity organization, because it is supporting the nonprofit, the African People's Education and Defense Fund. And that is the nonprofit of which the Black Power Blueprint is one of its projects and one of the more than 24 self-sustaining economic projects of the Uhuru movement around the US and the world. This Giving Tuesday project, the Black Power Blueprint, is for political and economic power in the hands of the African working class. So before we start our discussion tonight with Chairman Omali Yeshitela, we have a brief video that we wanted to show you all before we get into our program tonight.
This holiday season, donate to the Black Power Blueprint, a project of the African People's Education and Defense Fund, transforming vacant and condemned buildings in North St. Louis into African community, economic and cultural hubs. Feed, clothe, and house our people.
Because of you, the Black Power Blueprint is rapidly moving forward, bringing a future of self-determination to the African community of St. Louis. Thanks to you, we now have our beautiful Aquaba Hall in the Uhuru House that's quickly became a real community hub on West Florissant Avenue. The Black Power Blueprint is the only thing that addresses the serious disparities in our community by bringing political and economic power into the hands of the African working class. Thanks to you, we were able to demolish the condemned buildings across the street from the Uhuru House to make way for the One Africa, One Nation marketplace and the community garden. We need your contributions to install the outdoor lighting and to pave and fence the lots, to complete the beautiful outdoor venue space and the community garden. Because of you and our amazing volunteers, we are in the process of rapidly renovating a fourplex apartment building to house our African Independent Workforce Program that will train African workers returning to our community from the prison system. Your generous contribution enabled the Black Power Blueprint to be on track for our launch of Phase 3, the renovation of our Uhuru Jiko kitchen, bakery, and cafe beginning January 2019. Hundreds of you from the white community have united with this opportunity to contribute as a powerful stance of reparation to the Black community. We can see the beginnings of an entire community coming together for self-determination and power over our own lives. We really appreciate your continued support to make these economic institutions a reality for the people.
Donate generously on Giving Tuesday and throughout the holiday season. The community's needs are great. Our goal is to complete the outdoor event space for community programs and to prepare the land for the community garden and marketplace that will bring economic development and healthy food in an area with not one grocery store. Black Power Blueprint is already providing the programs before we have even completed the space. Donate today at blackpowerblueprint.org. Sign up to host your own fundraiser, win your family and friends. Register on Giving Tuesday.
Uhuru, welcome back, and I'm going to turn it over to Chairwoman Penny Hess.
Thank you, Jamie, and thank you for that great video, that powerful video that shows a little bit about this incredible project called the Black Power Blueprint that we're raising resources for tonight. And, you know, you can go to blackpowerblueprint.org to donate, and also there's a tremendous amount of information there, pictures and videos and the story of this project, and, you know, just to see what's going on, how it's on the ground. And under the leadership of Deputy Chair Yeshitela, it has been an amazingly rapid development of these projects, and it's just getting started. So I just wanted to say, before we start our historic interview with Chairman Omali Yeshitela, it's always such an honor to be able to have him here today. You know, I want to say again that I am the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, the organization of white people that was formed by the African People's Socialist Party as a strategic project to place white people as African internationalists and revolutionaries under the leadership of the African Revolution inside of the white population, to win others of us to our interests back. And that is very powerful. It's truly in the interests of us as white people, and it's very much of an honor to be able to be here and to be under the leadership of the African Revolution, the most dynamic force on the planet today. And the Black Power Blueprint is certainly the most positive, the most powerful actual project, putting political and economic power into the hands of the African working class in the north side of St. Louis, that is happening anywhere on the planet today. So today, as Comrade Jesse has said, is what is called Giving Tuesday. And this is really powerful because we have over 53 people, and I'm going to say some of their names, to the African People's Education and Defense Fund, APEDF, and the Black Power Blueprint specifically. So this 53 people today have raised just under $7,000. And the day's not over yet. Wow, that is really, really powerful. Just really salute all of you who have done this. We'll talk about it a little bit more. So yeah, you can go to the APEDF Facebook page, and it's not too late. You can sign up for one. You can actually create your own fundraiser on your Facebook page. And this gives our friends, our family, just people who otherwise wouldn't be involved, a chance to take a stand of reparations to African people and to participate in such a mass way in this powerful and unique project of the Black Power Blueprint. And I just really want to thank my cousin Mary Beth, who contributed to my Giving Tuesday event Facebook fundraiser today. And anybody else can go there and do that as well. But thank you, Mary Beth, out in Texas. So I really appreciate your contribution, and want to call on other members of my family to do that as well. So, we just salute all those who have participated, and also want to say that at this web event tonight, we want to raise $777, which is a perfectly doable amount that we can do here tonight, because we also have an ongoing fundraiser on at blackpowerblueprint.org that is really our third phase, or what we call it the 2.2 phase of our ongoing fundraiser that started a year ago tonight at Giving Tuesday in 2017. And during this year, we have raised, through your support, over $60,000 directly on our crowdfunding site. So I want to salute all of you, so many people. I think about 800 people or more have participated in that. So I want to salute everybody who has participated in that. So this, we kind of started over again in August, and our goal is $20,000 by the end of the year, and we are at tonight $11,723. So we want to get to $12,500 tonight. So that means $777. So you can simply go to blackpowerblueprint.org and put your contribution. If you're North American, you can put your reparations stand in. So I just want to say that if you would like to start your own Giving Tuesday fundraiser on your Facebook page, you can do that by going to APDF's Facebook page, and it says create a fundraiser. I think that's pretty much what you do. So it's very simple, it's very clear, and just start sharing it with your friends, get it out there, and start raising resources. So that would be very, very powerful. So, oh my goodness, we already have some people. We have Phyllis Burries, $25 tonight, and so that only gives us $752 to go. And thank you, Phyllis, the Uhuru. And we haven't even started hearing Chairman Omali Yeshitela yet. So this is very powerful. So I think that is basically, we're talking about tonight this question of this consumerism during the holidays. I read a statistic that the average family in the U.S., so I want to know who this average is spending approximately $800 on holiday gifts. So that must mean that actually white families are spending a couple thousand, while, there's poverty and two Americas. So, this is like $800 average, and how many billions of dollars were spent on what is called Black Friday, which is Black Friday really was the day. I saw on Facebook an article that said that Black Friday was actually the day that African people were discounted on sale during the times of chattel slavery inside the United States, the colonial enslavement of African people. So, this whole idea of consumerism and just, spend and just wait in line, go out at 3 o'clock in the morning and wait in line for something that's discounted, and you have to fight everybody, and all this kind of madness that is, what this system is about, built on the backs of the enslavement of African people, the theft of African resources, and the stolen land of the indigenous people and genocide committed against them. So, I just think that this is a very, very important discussion that we're going to have with Chairman Omali Yeshitela tonight about the question of parasitism and parasitic capitalism and what it means, and what is this antidote to this consumer madness that we see out there right now. So I want to turn this over to the director of the African People's Socialist Party's Agitprop Department, Akile Anai, who will be discussing these questions with Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Well, I really want to appreciate being a part of this discussion tonight, and it is an honor to be a part of the Black Power Blueprint webinar, and it's an honor to be in the presence, and I want to salute my leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and and also Deputy Chair Onezene Yeshitela for leading this powerful work right there in St. Louis. And as I said, it is an honor to be here tonight. And Chairman, so as was stated by Comrade Penny Hess, we are talking about capitalist holiday madness versus the struggle for Black power. And you have summed up the capitalist white narrative of Christmas, part of what has made white people the subjects of history. You also talk about the myth of how all the good white children get presents from Santa Claus made by little elves, and bad African children get a bag of switches. So can you please expound on this?
Uhuru. First of all, I just want to really express my appreciation to everyone who is participating in this event on this evening, especially those of you who are out there helping to make this Giving Tuesday a success. I think it's important, like when we talk about the various cultural expressions inside this country, and most of the capitalist world, most of the American or European capitalist world, to understand the relationship of these cultural expressions to the economic base of the society. And in every instance where you have society, you have a relationship that is comprised of both an economic base and a superstructure. And that superstructure is what we talk about, what we're looking at when we see the legal system, the legal institution, the political institutions, and the various ideological expressions of that society. And when you have a society that is based on parasitism, and that's what we're looking at when we're looking at the United States, we're looking at Europe. Actually, we're looking at a world that where the political and economic configuration stem from this parasitic relationship that Europe has imposed on the rest of us. And so you have in this country, the United States, for example, we are now we're now living on, occupying land, territory that was taken in a very bloody, totally understated aggression against the indigenous peoples here, who living in concentration camps, most of them, that are called Indian reservations. And in fact, what you look at is the African people who are here living in concentration camps, either called housing projects or prisons and things like that, and the Mexican people, another sector of the indigenous population whose land was stolen, expropriated, and much of what is now called the United States is comprised of the half of Mexico that was stolen at gunpoint. That's the parasite. Yeah, you're talking about a system that came into existence with selling black people. You're talking about how it expresses itself in the United States today on the land of the indigenous people, the Mexican people, etc. That's parasitism. And it would be hard to imagine the existence of the whole capitalist system separate from or independent of the enslavement of Africans and the theft of land and genocide committed against the indigenous peoples. That's the origin of the entire thing. So it is a parasitic social system. And like every society, it expresses itself in the world using various cultural forms and means. And one of the most pronounced that all over Europe, and it has also been adopted by many, even of the oppressed and exploited peoples, is this thing about Santa Claus and Santa Claus or Father Christmas, the cherubic white guy who is responsible for bringing all of these gifts and what have you. This is the narrative that there is this place in the world where it is too cold actually to do work, but that is inhabited where this Santa Claus lives, and he lives with these elves, these non-people or non-people, elves who make all of these toys and other good things that that this guy, Santa Claus or Father Christmas, throws on this magic sleigh every year and takes all these goodies to the good children of the world, and the bad children of the world get various kinds of punitive gifts that could be coal in their stockings or switches or other kinds of things like that. And it is no accident that the parasitism in the political economy would represent itself in this fashion, because the society is incapable of condemning itself. It can't say, we got all of this by stealing and raping and maiming and murdering the peoples of the world. It can't raise its children. How will it have an explanation? How could it blame, for example, movies and games and things like that for the murder that happens in the schools and the mayhem and murder that happens every place else? They can't do that. It doesn't say that this is our tradition of murder, mayhem, theft, etc. And so it says that we got this because we're good. We are good, and good people get good things, and the bad people don't have it. This is an explanation that every child would have to accept growing up into adulthood. You learn that you got things if you were good, and if you were not good, you didn't get them. Every child is taught that. And so this is a lesson of this is an explanation that is provided in this capitalist society for everybody. The wealth has come as a consequence of being good, and the poverty has come because others are bad. And so it is an expression of, it's a cultural expression, and philosophical, popular philosophical explanation for the relationships existing between peoples in the world. And I think it even perhaps complicates the ability of some white people to be able to understand the question of colonialism and what has been stolen. It makes it easy for white people to assume that white people have everything because they're good and others don't because they're not good. I remember, the infamous statement by George Bush, who talked about why all the peoples of the world were upset and hated the United States and wanted to struggle to take back their freedom and resources. And Bush's explanation is that they hate us because we are good. And if you don't believe that, check your Christmas stockings on the early morning of December 25th, and it will be proved to you just how good, quote unquote, we are. So that's the explanation. That's the explanation of the consequences of parasitism. So nobody created anything. Nobody did the work. Nobody created all these resources. And it's interesting that we would talk about this thing we call consumerism. I think more than 70% of the economy of the United States is consumer-driven. And that's logical. It would be consumer-driven because all the resources are taken from other places. And what you have is white people simply consuming it, buying it. And it comes from someplace, though. And it didn't come from elves. And it didn't come from a fat white guy on a magic sled or something like that. But that's the explanation that's given to us. And that's why, opportunities like this to help people come down to earth and come to terms with what our real relationship really is. This is an extraordinarily important opportunity that all of us should take advantage of, and we can break free of the consumerism as we've characterized it, and unite in this process of giving back to the people who are invisible, who we are led to believe didn't create anything. We can give that back and contributes to the ability of the peoples whose resources are stolen from them to be able to build, construct quality lives for themselves and their children. So that's what this is about, Uhuru.
Yeah. Uhuru, so you and the party have also struggled around the tradition of Zwarte Piet, Black Pete. That is part of the Santa Claus celebration in Europe. Can you speak to this tradition and the significance of it?
Yeah, that's I had known about this Santa Claus, Zwarte Piet character. I'd heard about it and had not paid much attention to it. I was in Holland. I was in the Netherlands many years ago, and stumbled onto this parade. It's really interesting. It was in December. I stumbled into this parade. And before the parade, I was in some kind of shop, some store to purchase something, and I saw these little white children. I thought they had smut on their face. I thought that this was, children playing, and they needed to clean up. But what it was is in Holland, in Belgium, and several other European states, and I think they've even may even find evidence of this in some places in Mexico because there's a Spanish connection to it. Since the 1850s in particular, of a book written by some guy, the Santa Claus was given this relationship with Zwarte Piet. Zwarte Piet, which translates into Black Pete, was a servant that worked with Santa Claus, for Santa Claus, and who would, Santa Claus would bring the goodies to the good children, and Zwarte Piet, if they were bad, Zwarte Piet would give something, and then some of them would be stuffed in the bags and ferried off to Spain in these bags. And so it's an extraordinary story. And the Dutch, they say, well, this has nothing to do with race. They said that there's a Zwarte Piet. It looks like that because he goes down the chimney and, he gets black that way. But that didn't explain why many of the Zwarte Piet characters who were dressed up in their little pantaloons and other kinds of outfits were wearing fake dreadlocks. This was a magic chimney. And and then not only did they do that, but they had, lips painted red. It's like the old Sambo caricature. And it's interesting because I ran into the mayor of Amsterdam because I stumbled upon this parade, and in the parade, of course, there's a ship that literally comes to the dock, and then this guy on a horse, and he's dressed. It looks like he could be the Pope, and he's dressed in this papish type outfit, riding on a white horse, and he's accompanied by Zwarte Piet. So this is Santa Claus. And there's this parade, and all the people out there waiting for it. And it's really interesting, and because they say, oh, how much everybody loves it. In fact, they did a poll, I think, something like more than 60% of all the people, didn't want to change anything about the Zwarte Piet thing, because there's a bit of controversy that has emerged around it, except for the Africans who, like Surinese, born in Curaçao, and all of these people were Holland, has some kind of colonial, neo-colonial relationship even now. These Africans, wanted it ended. And the thing is that an African walking down the street in Amsterdam or in Holland is likely to frighten little white children when they see him, because they think it's Swart Pete. This is what they've grown up with. This is alive today in Holland. And I had attempted at one time, I really eagerly sought to be able to mobilize the international African community and other people around the world to come into Amsterdam, because I wanted to bust up that parade. I wanted to just come in for the purpose of destroying that parade, because some Africans who I was in touch with and working with at the time said that they were opposed to the Santa Claus and they wanted to do something. But I came to understand really what they wanted was to be able to leverage opposition to Santa Claus to get some resources from the government to set up some kind of African-based anti-racist, kind of institution. But the point is that the whole Santa Claus manifestation is European-wide. It's more than that. It's and it represents, again, this attempt to disguise a colonial relationship, a parasitic relationship, with the assumption that everything that European white people have as a consequence either of magic, of their goodness, or it's simply independent from any theft of resources from anybody else in the world. And of course, we want to bust that bubble too, and that's what this is all about, that we're doing today. And I say death to Santa Claus, and we can free Swart Pete, and let Swart Pete, go off and earn a living like everybody else has to. And Santa Claus, of course, needs to get a job as well. So I think that what we can do is, we should contribute to use this Giving Tuesday as an opportunity again to make it possible to really, in real terms, deal with this relationship of oppressed and oppressor, and exploited and exploiters, and colonized and colonizers. And this may be difficult for some people who are trapped into this fantasy. I mean, I don't know which is the greater fantasy, the Santa Claus, and some of you can remember how disappointed you were when you found out, or your big brother or sister told you that really is no Santa Claus. You understand? And that is the message that we want to take out. We're going to bust this. There really isn't any Santa Claus. But we do, and some people, that's an extraordinary fantasy. And it's similar to the fantasy, the whole racism, anti-racism fantasy, and that everybody should be tired of by now. I am, and all of the colonized people of the world I know tired of it, and even if they're not tired of it by name, because this whole concept of white people helping themselves feel good by giving crumbs to those from whom everything has been stolen by white society is self-serving, and it gets tiring after a while. Certainly, it ought to be tiring, and anybody who has a real interest in changing the world and changing the relationships that we have in this world should be supporting this attack that we're making on Santa Claus and Santa Claus, and say free Swart Pete, and free us all. And people should contribute to this really dignified effort that's being made here today to contribute to this anti-colonial movement, so that none of us have to pretend what this relationship is about. We can look at each other squarely in the face, and we have the ability to articulate as honestly as possible what this relationship is really about, and what we can do to change the world and change it. So that's what I think is so important about this. And Swart Pete, there is no honesty and there's no dignity in it, and the people in Holland who try to defend this mythological relationship that is nothing but a cover for slavery need to be liberated too, so that they can see the world as it really is. Or if they have the ultimate stake in protecting that relationship, then it's our responsibility to organize Swart Pete and to arm Swart Pete so that they will know the fury of the oppressed. Uhuru.
So, Chairman, you have also talked about how you cried for white characters like Tiny Tim in the story Christmas Carol by Dickens, but never cried for yourself. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think that, you know, even this, what we're talking about now, this is interesting today. I remember many years ago, I was a very young person. I tried to buy a gift for a child. And I picked up this book, and it was Snow White and the 7 who didn't get a chance to help Santa Claus. So, and it said that Snow White was so beautiful, and said she was beautiful because her skin was as white as snow. And I was going to get this for this little girl, this little child. And, you know, obviously that was rubbish. I couldn't do that. I threw that away, but that's what happens to us all, and even the Santa Claus myth. I mean, think about every African child living in the worst slums and worst kind of oppression, and there's this assumption that's imposed on this child that this fat white guy comes and brings toys and goodies to you. I mean, and if you've got anything, it's come as a consequence of your parents having spent their income for the year to bring you something to at least allow you to, to experience the joy that's supposedly associated with this. And when I was growing up, even as a very small child, I was taught to read very early in my life, and I ended up reading this story. It's an interesting story. It's the story by Dickens that talks about Scrooge and what was the name of that book? The story is called Christmas Carols, and you know the character Scrooge and Tiny Tim and Bob Cratchit, but Dickens is interesting, was part of a kind of movement that I think was characterized like utopian socialists or something like that, who believed that you could convince the capitalists that, to turn over a new leaf and to not be capitalist-like and to treat people nice. And so you had Scrooge, who was the main character here, and who didn't believe in Christmas and didn't believe in giving gifts and treating people nice, and worked people overtime on the job. Even his own relative, Bob Cratchit, who worked for him, couldn't get the day off for Christmas. And then there was Tiny Tim, I think, another relative who was a little crippled child. And so everybody would go, "Merry Christmas, Mr. Scrooge," and Scrooge would go, "Bah, humbug." I read that. And, you saw that all the time. They even made little duck characters from, I don't know who it was that made the Donald Duck character, but, all of those characters, they did the Scrooge and et cetera. And this was a heartbreaking story. I mean, here's this little crippled child. Here's Bob Cratchit. He can't get off from work to be with his family and enjoy Christmas, and works for Scrooge in these terrible situations. And so I learned to cry for him. And I had so much empathy for this child. And I didn't have an opportunity to have empathy for myself, because nobody was writing the story of the other story. The fact is that there was a factory for Bob Cratchit to go to that fed Scrooge because the resources that were being stolen from Africa and from other peoples around the world. As bad as Bob Cratchit may have been, it was not half as bad, or a tenth of the conditions, of the bad conditions that were being imposed on people in Africa, et cetera, that brought those resources to Europe. They can put them in the factories in England that gave Cratchit a job, that made it possible for Cratchit to not have been a peasant or not have been a serf that's tied to a feudal existence. It was what they were doing in Africa, et cetera, that made that possible. Nobody was writing that story. I didn't have an opportunity to cry for the Africans who whose lives were being expropriated, or for the Africans who lost me, that had me sitting up in Florida reading a story about white people in America, in England, or someplace else. I mean, here I am, a stolen person, human beings, that for the purpose of creating wealth and value, crying about the white kid that's benefited from what was stolen from me, though benefiting badly compared to the other whites. So that was problematic, extremely problematic, and this is part of the whole narrative that we're talking about. And this is the thing that we have to do to change the world, and to also say that Dickens obviously was not a bad guy. He was somebody who was really interested in changing things, but his vision was extraordinarily limited. It's not because Dickens would have been ignorant of slavery or because England was getting fatter by the day because of slavery, and because there were Africans who were enslaved all over England, and in some particular cities more than others, and all over Europe that was the case. And in the Netherlands, the African was so prevalent that he looked like a little Sambo that you could find all over Europe. So it's not like Dickens was unaware of it, but what is true is that Dickens' place, located on this pedestal of slavery, etc., did not require him to understand parasitism. For him, the big struggle was that which was occurring after the resources stolen from Africa and the rest of us got to England and was being changed through some production process. And what our responsibility is here today is to say that parasitism is the fundamental question in capitalism. It is the fundamental question, and if you can't understand parasitism, you do not understand capitalism. If you can't unite with the question of parasitism, the fact that right now we're having this discussion in the United States on stolen land that was developed by Africans who were enslaved and what have you. It's parasitism, that's where it came from, and that's why we're having this discussion today about reparations and trying to unite all the best of the people who within the European nation to come to unite with this struggle to overturn this relationship. Uhuru.
Well, Chairman, you've been saying it, throughout this webinar so far, talking about parasitism, and you've shown that capitalism is parasitic, and this season really represents that. So can you, really break down for us parasitic capitalism? Yeah,
I think that's important because really I find it nauseating. All these people call themselves communists, Marxists, leftists, white people, and then some of their minions too, because we deal on a regular basis with some Africans who are very smart people because they've read all of Marx and much of it, or if not Marx, his disciples who explain the world according to Marxist understanding, and that understanding presupposes that there is some inherent contradiction or some inherent situation in Europe, or that they would have characterized as industrialized Western society, as something that brought all this wealth and resources to Europe, and that the solution somehow to change the world is based not in depriving this parasitic host of everything that it has stolen and that it requires for its existence, but somehow to work on within the confines of the parasitic social system itself. When we say parasitic capitalism, we're talking about capitalism has its origin, has its beginning, has its genesis in slavery and colonialism. No slavery, no capitalism. No colonialism, no capitalism. No theft of these lands that we call the Americas, no capitalism. No theft of the lands throughout the Americas, no capitalism. That's where it came from. And that's the thing that also transformed impoverished white people into this mythological, powerful working class, and that benefits from slavery, colonialism, the theft of resources, the murder of the indigenous peoples here. It's tiresome to have to be dealing with white leftists and their followers, their believers, who cannot break out of that, who can only see the world as something that has been created and maintained by white people, white genius, or some other thing like that. They can't see beyond that. But I don't care. The reality is that we have to. Certainly the African people have to, the Mexican and colonized peoples of the world have to see this. When we look at our situation, we don't see indigenous people as something that contributed to the development of white folk. That was as significant. He called it the primitive accumulation of capital that was the basis for the development of capitalism, that he considered a progressive development in human society. That's what Marx saw. When the white man came here to the Americas and began the murder and theft of the indigenous people, the theft of their resources, when the white man came to Africa and began this process of kidnapping African people and the brutality that one cannot even define, when that happened, we weren't saying, here comes somebody to make primitive accumulation for the development of Europe. That's not how we saw that. And we have to be able to start looking at history from the vantage point, from your own vantage point, as opposed to some narrative that's been imposed on us. And that's why we're having this discussion too, because there is such a thing as objective truth. There is something called objective truth, and everybody could realize this objective truth, because there are those who would convince us that there is a truth for the white man, and then there's a truth for the Africans, there's a truth. You just pick your truth, but there is an objective truth that defines this relationship that we have. That's what we're talking about today. That's why we're offering people an opportunity to participate in this process of reparations, because reparations responds to the reality of parasitism. And so that's what we're saying, that it's a parasite that has lashed itself onto the human body, and that unless we get rid of this parasite, we're doomed. And there is no solution. That's why you can't find anything that approximates a solution to this contradiction that comes from the white left and from those people who follow the white left, because they all attempt to solve the problem on this pedestal of the oppression of the rest of us. And what we're saying, that the problem can only be solved through removing the pedestal upon which the whole capitalist enterprise rests and it relies on. And it begs the truth, this truth, that it is not Africans and the oppressed that relies on white civilization, white people, etc., for success. It is white civilization and white progress that relies on the oppression, exploitation, and the theft of the resources of the oppressed for its success. That's what we're talking about. And we have a responsibility to understand that, and anybody who can hear objective truth will know that that is objective truth. That is not a prejudiced truth, and it's only the oppressed that has a stake in understanding the truth. The oppressor has to falsify history. It has to confuse the question, but the oppressed cannot be free by falsifying the truth. It has to tell the truth in order to find our way to freedom, and we're asking people to join with this truth on today. That's what this is about. This evening, this discussion, this Giving Tuesday, to unite with the oppressed, to end this relationship and make honest people of everybody who's living off the flesh of the oppressed right now. Uhuru. Yeah.
Uhuru. I mean, I just really want to salute Chairman Omali.
Yes, yes.
This whole question of parasitic capitalism is the key question, as you're saying. And what that means for white people is that everything that we have is stolen. Every dream and aspiration, as the chairman has said, is stolen. Every opportunity, every experience of democracy, all social wealth handed down from generation to generation comes from the enslavement of African people and the theft of this land from the indigenous people. This is the only reason, as you're saying, there wouldn't be an America, there wouldn't be a United States. And I really appreciate how you lay out that this Christmas myth, this Santa Claus and Zwarte Piet, is an exact replica, a narrative of that justifies the European assault on Africa and the oppressed and colonized peoples on the world that provided the ability for all white people to sit on this pedestal and to have the highest standard of living in the world, no matter where we are. If we're in Europe, we're in the United States, we're in Canada, we're in Australia, or we're in Africa as colonizers, we are the same. We are the same. And that whole myth, I mean, it's just brilliant how that's laid out. Yes. You know, how the chairman lays this out, and it's part of what you called like the superstructure of the culture of whiteness, you know, and it's really powerful to be able to expose that and to have this viewpoint from the point of view of the African working class that sees the world as it really is. So, you know, I just really wanted to salute the chairman. We're going to come back to Chairman Omali Yeshitela again in a minute, and so honored for you to be here. I want to thank some people who have given tonight, and we have, let's see, where are we here? We've already saluted Phyllis Burries, $25, Jackson Hollingsworth, $5. And Casey Mackey over in St. Louis, we have $15, Ann Hirsch, $25, so we have raised $70, and I am going to put in $30 tonight, so that will put us to $100.
That means we have 687 left to raise.
And you know, and I am doing that, and I think many others, I could speak for others as well, that you know, we are contributing as a stand of reparations, not as charity, not as anti-racism, but the right of African people to have the value of their stolen labor, which is in the trillions of dollars just of what was stolen inside the United States as well. So this is a powerful stand. This puts us on the forward side of history and gives us the opportunity to be a part of a world which will end oppression when African people have power. African people, the African Revolution, the African working class is bringing the world with them. It is bringing the oppressed and colonized peoples with them. And it gives the opportunity for white people to come and be part of this new world, this transformed world that ends all oppression as well. I want to thank, I'm going to hand this over to Jesse in just a minute, but in addition to the people that we just thanked, I really want to also, I'm going to name some of the over 50 people who have participated in Giving Tuesday today. So I'm just going to go through these names really quick, but we know, we love you. We really are excited by just the tremendous work that you've done on this. So Alfred Hutley, who's in the furniture store in Philadelphia, Allison Haney, Alia Yellow, Amanda Carlazzi, Ann Hirsch, Ben Rosenzweig, Carly Spurlock, Cyan Loop, Connor Voss, Kota X, David DeCorte, Diane Tournay, Faye Took, Gregory Pfister, Hallie Murray, Jackson Hollingsworth, Jake Scott, James White, Jamie Simpson, right here, Janice Kant, Janice Bryant, also in the furniture store in Philadelphia, Janine Griswold, Jesse Call, Jesse Neville, Joel Hamburger, Johan Bedingfield, Jonathan Margaret Morgan, Marissa Laufer, Maureen Wagoner, Mary Haynes, Micah Del Rosario, Paula Lipsy, Raya Fogarty, Ron Hudson, Ruby Gittleson, and who was one of the coordinators of this, along with Kitty Riley. We just really support and salute you, Comrade Ruby, for your tremendous work on this campaign. Sam Day, Sartosh Rohit, Stephanie Ham, Stephanie Midler, Valerie Bronte, Zoe Hauser, Barbara Godwin, Carol Carter, Sabrina Adams, Sarah Legotsky, Daryl Rosenkrantz, and Alyssa Afonina. Wow, what an amazing cruise. So that is so exciting. And each of those people who have set up this fundraiser have gotten so many people from their base and their family involved. And we don't even know all the numbers who have actually participated to help these friends and supporters here raise their goal. So I'm going to hand this over to Jesse.
I have one. Oh.
Okay. Oh, you
Uhuru,
have one.
Jesse.
Uhuru, well, I just want to join in saluting all of the amazing forces out there who are doing this Giving Tuesday fundraiser, and also just completely express my unity and appreciation with everything that Chairman, and go to blackpowerblueprint.org and put in whatever you can, whether it's $5 or $500, it makes a huge difference. So go to blackpowerblueprint.org and put in towards the Black Power Blueprint program that is happening on the ground in St. Louis. And we do want to give a special thanks to Robert Wood, who put in $25. Uhuru to Robert Wood.
So we only need $652.
652. That's it. So
very simple. We're going to do this.
Yes.
Let's do it. It's very simple to raise $625.
absolutely. 652. So if somebody wants to go ahead and put in 52 so we can get that
let's
weird
do
number
that.
out of the way and just get it down to 600 and keep going from there, go to blackpowerblueprint.org and put in $52 if you can. So, and shout out to Secretary General of the African People's Solidarity Committee, Allison Haney, who put in $25. Uhuru to SG Alley. So that means now we're at 627. 627 left to go.
We can do this. We've done it before. With your help, we can do it tonight. We have the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party with us tonight. We have the director of the Agitprop department of the African People's Socialist Party, Akile Anai. This is a night to really ramp up our commitment to African self-determination and independence. And you can do that by going to blackpowerblueprint.org and contributing just like these comrades have already done tonight. Thank you so much. Uhuru.
Let's whittle away at that $800 that every white family and more, and we know and more, that every white family is going to spend on Christmas presents from the elves, from the Santa Claus. You know, that is the story of parasitic capitalism. I know so many, and I see it in so many different ways. So many white people want to be part of a meaningful society, want to be part of a just society, want to not be the enemies of the people on the planet Earth, not want to be, you know, carrying out the goals of colonialism and parasitic capitalism and the white ruling class. And, you know, this is the way that we can do this.
Yes.
This is the way. And we can recognize that there is colonialism inside the borders of the United States. That, you know, I was Googling anti-racist organizations, and 22.2 million entries came up on Google. 22,200,000 entries came up under anti-racist organizations. 22 million things that have to do with that, and not one thing has changed. That the conditions are worse than they've ever been, and that's why it's only going to change when the material basis of the ideas in our heads is changed. As the chairman, another brilliant analysis that the chairman has given us, and that's going to happen when African people have power over their lives, when they have the return of their stolen resources, when they have Africa, the continent of Africa, and also are part of the struggle of the Americas. We just celebrated, quote unquote, celebrated last week the celebration of genocide of the indigenous people. That's called Thanksgiving, where we're supposed to be thankful for everything that we had based on slaughtering and murdering hundreds of millions of indigenous people whose land this is. And right now, as we speak, we can see what the U.S. is doing at the border as the indigenous people are attempting to come across a border that was stolen from them, and that the struggle goes on, that the essence of every struggle that we see here and on the planet Earth has its roots in this reality that the chairman has taught us, in the assault on Africa, the theft of African human beings as the first commodity of capitalism. So
And,
I'm going to turn it back over to Chairman. Go ahead, Jeff.
But, yeah, I just wanted to echo and unite with everything Chairwoman Penny has said and encourage people to, November 29th is the anniversary. The last webinar that we did is the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. We talked about the massacre that happened at Sand Creek, 1864. It was November 29th.
Wow.
So that's right around this colonial holiday, and we know that Thanksgiving became a really big thing around the time of Lincoln. I think there's a connection there. And I'm sick of celebrating sitting on stolen wealth, stolen money. We know where it is. It's in the white community. This is where all the hoarding happens, and it happens at gunpoint. And we can make a difference tonight by going to blackpowerblueprint.org and contributing everything we can, because this is not just about making ourselves feel better. This is about uniting with a vision that will change the world. Uhuru.
We have a very special contribution from none other than Deputy Chair Onizine Yeshitela. Uhuru. And that is of $100.
Wow.
And we have a statement from Deputy Chair that says, Uhuru, it's an honor for the chairman and I to be able to donate to the Black Power Blueprint. Okay, so this was also on behalf of the chairman here. Especially on this day to support Black Power, not holiday consumerism during the so-called holiday season. We will win. Uhuru, Deputy Chair, and Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Fantastic. And Casey Mackey heard the call to put in $52 that we made a few minutes ago. So salute to Casey Mackey, who put in that $52, which brings us down to, so that means we've now raised $302, bringing us down to $475 left to go. So Uhuru. Yes.
We are coming, blackpowerblueprint.org.
That's just a little bit over half of what the average white family is spending on stolen loot this year.
Yes.
So for the holidays. So let's give that in reparations. Let's make it happen.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
We're going to turn it over now back to Akile Anayi and Chairman Omali Yeshitela.
Uhuru. Yes, and really just want to again appreciate Chairman for being with us here tonight. And just was laid out 22.2 million anti-racist organizations in the world, but every place you look, people are suffering. The oppressed peoples are being starved in Yemen and in Africa, bombed in Syria and Pakistan, forced out of their land as refugees, as we see on the stolen southern border of the U.S., where Trump has sent 5,000 U.S. troops with the permission to open fire against them. This is not racism. You have called this time the uneasy equilibrium. Can you explain that for us?
Yes. I think it's important because an equilibrium, of course, is a balance. And when things are going well for the social system, it is obvious. And what we see now is a crisis that cannot be denied by anybody. Whatever their politic it's obvious that this country, this world, is experiencing a profound crisis. And it's made manifest, as you mentioned, in an escalation of the horrors being imposed on people. I think about what's happening in Yemen. I mean, just the murder, this outright murder that the United States government is responsible for. And you can't pretend other Libya that was created by the imperialists for the purpose of keeping and protecting the resources of the Arab people and the people in North Africa. This whole false entity, and that they use to murder, they're bombing, murdering. I know we talk about how they're starving the people in Yemen, but they're doing that, but it's just grotesque, the murder that's happening there. The murder that the United States government and the illegitimate entity, this white nationalist entity called Israel, that you can't say anything about. You can't mention that, not in polite society. The murder that the United States government is involved in supporting or perpetuating in various other places around the world. I mean, this is a matter of attempting to maintain the status quo, to hold on to all of what has been stolen. It is something that is happening in the face of a globally awakening mass of colonized and oppressed people who want to, who will, who are determined to change the relationship that they have with imperial white power, and their lackeys like the Saudi government, lackeys like these other neo-colonial puppet regimes that are propped up, that are put in place to lord it over the people and to facilitate the theft of our resources and our lives. And so what is happening is right now we're talking about Trump and the troops being sent to this border that was created to separate the people from their resources, to fence them out of being able to get to their resources. We see similar kinds of actions happening throughout Europe with the so-called war on immigrants. And I really appreciated the statement that I used to hear often from Africans and others who were in Europe who spoke of the white people's resentment of our being in these places, saying we are here because you were there. Meaning the only reason there is an immigrant question is because of white people. And that the real immigrant is the white people who, you know, this is the, because the white people have the power, they legalize their presence and everybody else is an illegal. So here we are on a landmass in the United States that was recently stolen and even now is being contested by sectors of the indigenous peoples, contesting that. Even those people coming to the border are contesting this recently stolen land, and people can comfortably be able to say that somehow that this is the righteous property, if you will, of the white people who live here. And I'm not sure how many Europeans are able recognizing this relationship of theft. And many are saying that we don't care. Who was the president who said it's ours, we stole it fair and square? You know, and I think that's a kind of a sentiment we're seeing. And it's a statement about the stability of a social system that cannot rely on a belief in its own justness. It's not the system where you see the people not being able to believe that it's a just or permanent system. And the belief in the system being just and permanent is almost one of the requirements in order to be able to hang on to power. But that belief is eroding quickly. Obviously, it's eroding that about the justness and the fact that the people are at the border and you know, here coming toward Mexico. And people everywhere are challenging, even China, challenging the ability of the U.S. to dominate the world anymore. To be able to say that it's permanent is increasingly difficult. It is an uneasy equilibrium. It is an equilibrium that bodes ill for the existing social system, not just Trump, but also for Bernie and those who protect the social system. And it has amazing, it speaks to the amazing possibility of the oppressed who are changing this equilibrium by our motion. And of course, the people make revolution, and that's what it's going to take. But for revolution to really occur, the people have to have the advantage of an advanced detachment who will lead that revolutionary project. Otherwise, it's just another rebellion, another uprising. We hear of them over and over again, which is one of the reasons that the United States and these imperialist powers do everything they can to destroy, prevent the emergence of an actual advanced detachment, a vanguard, a revolutionary vanguard of the oppressed peoples of the world, because that's what it's going to take to win. And it is this vanguard that is calling on solidarity from all the peoples, including the people who are participating in this Giving Tuesday, to unite with the struggle to build the Black Power blueprint. Because this is an amazing fundamental blow that we are talking about making against the imperialist status quo. And this is a part, it has to be seen as a critical part of the struggle, because you know, people I know can and do engage in things like blocking interstates, and I'm all for the blocked interstates, and people are and do participate in mobilization, demonstration, and I believe in that too, because the people need those in order to enhance their capacity to fight. But there must be a to what end? And there must be that. And there has to be a recognition of the fact that all politics is concentrated economics, and the economic interest of the oppressed is to liberate the actual capacity, the productive forces of the oppressed. And that's what colonialism is. It has captured and removed from the possession of the oppressed our capacity, our control of the productive forces, the land, the resources, and people who are necessary for producing stuff is no longer in the possession of ourselves. And that's what it is that we're involved in. And we're calling on people who are participating in this discussion, in this webinar, to unite with us, because you know, there's a saying that we used to, we have a friend, his name is Sundiata Kohli. He's in prison now. He was one of the people with Assata Shakur when she was gunned down, when the state tried to murder her. And he used to say, the more sweat in peace, the less blood in war. And this is sweating time that we're talking about now. We're asking people to sweat, to go into your wallets and go into your bank accounts and go every place to make contributions to this project that we're involved in. Because this, in the final analysis, is what's going to help to destroy this relationship more than any unlearning racism class that you might take. And this is what it's going to take to make that happen. So please join with us and jump on the scale to tilt this uneasy equilibrium more and more in the direction of victory for the oppressed. Uhuru. Yeah.
Got to coin the phrase, this is sweating time. So in many ways, Chairman, the African People's Socialist Party follows in the footsteps of the great Marcus Garvey of the 1920s. Can you address that and what it is that distinguishes the party and Marcus Garvey from other organizations?
I think the thing that really distinguishes the party and Marcus Garvey from the others is, one, what Marcus Garvey called African fundamentalism. That is to say, a theory, a politic that recognized the significance of African people to define our own reality and to recapture our freedom on our own terms as a people, to become a self-governing people. And that is what we call, we have developed that, and we call it African internationalism. And I think so theory that recognizes the oneness of African people, our responsibility to take our freedom and to settle for nothing less than that, to be made indignant by any suggestion that we should settle for anything short of total, absolute liberation, the ability and the right to be a self-governing people. And that's what we are involved in today. Just as Garvey was yesterday, we are preparing to govern. We are preparing to govern. And so I think that's a fundamental thing. And I think another thing is that Garvey was hated by sectors of the African middle class, the petty bourgeoisie, including people, esteemed people like W.E.B. Du Bois, who is loved by every liberal of almost in the world who is aware of his existence. He was hated by them. And he was hated in part because Garvey's base was the African working class. The masses of African working people constituted the base. He built an organization of 11 million people stretched across the planet Earth, which is the project that we have adopted as our own, with a single organization, with a single center, a single leadership that gave a strategic approach to our struggle, no matter where it was happening, whether it was in Cleveland, Ohio, or whether it was in Perth, Australia. It was the same strategy that was affecting what it was that we were doing. That was the Garvey movement. That's one of the things that make us independence, total freedom. And, you know, I just want to say that in the 60s, we would hear white people and pundits who would refer to the struggle for African people to be self-governing as separatist movements. And it's such a narcissistic characterization of what we were about. They would define our struggles to be freedom as having some relationship to not wanting to be with them. You know, like you want to separate from us. And first of all, there has never been any unity between us and you in the first place. But secondly, when the white people stole this land from the indigenous population and then came up with this manifesto that declared the theft, that recognized and celebrated the theft, they didn't call it a declaration of separation, they call it a declaration of independence. And that the struggle that we're involved in has nothing to do with the proximity that we have to white people. We just want to be free, self-determining. We want to be independent people, like all the other peoples on the planet Earth want to be. When we say independence, we mean real independence. We're not talking about being locked into a deadly embrace with imperialism through white power controlling our economy or any other force controlling our economy that we recognize as neo-colonialism, like you can see all over Africa today and much of the world, where people have been declared free on the one hand, but they are still slaves to the ones who control the economy, where it's indirect rule. We're talking about real freedom, real independence. That's what it is that we're about. And that's the thing I think that make the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement very much like the movement that was led by Marcus Garvey. Uhuru.
Well, I really want to thank you, Chairman. I mean, this has been such a powerful discussion, and it's not over yet. I personally want to call on African people right now watching tonight to donate to the Black Power Blueprint as an investment in our future and our children's future. And, you know, during this time, we've talked about capitalist holiday consumerism, and that even during this time, African people, you know, poor and working class Africans are engaged in the struggle to be able to spoil our children, just as we see white children being extra spoiled during this time of year. And that the best gift, the gift that literally keeps on giving, is an investment into the Black Power Blueprint project. And that there is no better way, there's no better place to spend our money during this time of year, and to even bring our children into this process. You know, have them come in, volunteer in St. Louis, come to the many different institutions that we have in this country, to become a part of this, to volunteer, to participate, and be a part of creating this liberated future that we've talked about so much in this discussion. And that's where our resources should go. It's our own collective future, the real future for our children. And, you know, if my dad ever sat me down when I was a child and told me that this is where the resources were going, I would be ecstatic. You know, he brought me into this process. So that's why I'm here today. So I would encourage all of my people to donate to the Black Power Blueprint project today. Uhuru. Uhuru.
So we do have some donors that we'd like to thank. Since the last time we gave you all a shout out, we have received word that Ali Ayello put in $25. Uhuru, Ali. Yes.
I just want to say, Ali Ayello says, Uhuru, grateful for the unstoppable determination and amazing leadership from the African People's Socialist Party and the entire Uhuru movement.
Uhuru to Ali Ayello. And shout out to Ali, who coordinates the birthday fundraisers for APEDF. So salute to Comrade Ali. Also want to salute Diane Tournay, who put in $25. Uhuru, Diane. Uhuru. And then we had, okay, they keep coming in, great. So then Lisa Watson put in $25, Uhuru Lisa. Uhuru to Kitty Riley, who's there on the ground in St. Louis, who also put in $25, Uhuru. Uhuru to Kyle Weiss, who's behind the camera right now, who put in $15, Uhuru Kyle. And also $25 from Ruby Gittleson, Uhuru.
Ruby.
And also $25 from our live studio audience, Renee Nassar, Uhuru.
Comrade Renee.
$10 from Comrade Johan Bedingfield, Uhuru Johan.
And Johan says, this is $10 of my $50 commitment. I will pay $40 in December.
All right, Uhuru.
Right, Uhuru Johan.
Great. And then we also want to thank a longtime supporter of the Black Power Blueprint project, Alyssa Afonina, who put in $25 tonight. Uhuru, Alyssa. And the last one we've received word of, although I'm sure people are taking out their cards right now and going to blackpowerblueprint.org so that we get more text messages about your contributions. But we also want to thank Sam McCormick, who put in $10. Uhuru to Sam. So that means we've raised $512 tonight. And we have 265 left to go.
A mere 265.
Yes.
We can do this. We can do this.
Yes.
So we encourage you to go to blackpowerblueprint.org and put in your contribution. And just in terms of all the white people who are watching, I just want to express my unity with what has been put out on this program tonight, and the fact that we talked about earlier in this program that Giving Tuesday is this big thing of nonprofits and charities and things like that, and that this is the one nonprofit you can contribute to that is not charity. Yes. Right. And one of the examples of that, and one of the ways that that is true, is that this is not, for white people to contribute to this, it's not under some illusion that we're doing something nice for African people or that we're doing a favor for African people. Yes. Actually, the African liberation movement has done a favor for us. By creating this strategy, by creating this way for us to join the human family and to become connected with our own humanity for the first time in history. That's what reparations makes possible for white people. It's in our interests. It's not something that we're doing for somebody. It's in our interest to unite us in St. Petersburg, and we've seen that just blossom rapidly in St. Louis under the leadership of the African working class. So you never have to ask, where does the money go or anything like that. It's right there. You've all been watching the progress of this project from the very beginning, and it is just the beginning. So go to blackpowerblueprint.org and put in towards that last 265 that we have to raise.
Put in the 265, or the 65, or the 200, or half of that, or whatever you can do. $5 or the whole 265 or more. Go ahead, and I just really unite with what Comrade Jesse was saying. I wanted to, let's see, we have a couple more statements from Lisa Watson, who said, self-determination for African people, unity through reparations on #GivingTuesday and every day. We have the statement from Ali Ayala, which I read, from Deputy Chair Onizine Yeshitela, who we read. Allison Haney, who is part of the national leadership of the African People's Solidarity Committee, and a coordinator of Uhuru Furniture and Collectibles in Philadelphia, said, thank you, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, for your historic analysis. Free Zwarte Piet. Sinterklaas needs to commit class suicide and pay reparations like the rest of us Europeans. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Salute that statement, as well as Janice Kant, who put in $50 tonight. Uhuru.
Wow, Uhuru.
So we want to call on one of you who all is watching tonight, or somebody in the room, to go to blackpowerblueprint.org and put in the last 215 left to raise.
Oh, mere 215. I just also want to say Ann Hirsch, who gave $25 earlier, said, thank you, Chairman. It is so powerful to hear true stories about how the world got to be as it is, and how the stories I grew up with are really worse than just lies, but horrific weapons of propaganda that keep people all over the world oppressed. Wow. Robert Wood, who gave $25, who gives almost every week, and we really salute you, Robert Wood, just said Uhuru. And Catherine Mackey said, I support this amazing project led by Black community organizers who are showing the whole world, including white people, what is true justice and liberation looks like. Jackson Hollingsworth said, proud to return stolen resources to African people. This #GivingTuesday, reparations now. And Philip Burry said, I'm honored and excited to participate. Carol Carter, who gave earlier in the day, said in support of Evan Garner's passionate efforts in Asheville, North Carolina. So Uhuru to Carol and to Evan, who's out there in Asheville, North Carolina, as a very strong member of Uhuru's Solidarity Movement.
Very much so. In fact, Jamie and I met somebody on an outreach table here in St. Pete who was organized by Evan. So Uhuru to Comrade Evan. That's really awesome.
That's fantastic. And salute again to Comrade Janice Kant, who gave $50. So we only have $215 more to go.
We do, and we are calling again on everyone to participate in forwarding these African community economic development and political empowerment programs. This Giving Tuesday is a launching season of support for African self-determination and reparations. So as has been said, we are not just having a Giving Tuesday today. It's going through December 31st. So everyone who wants to get involved, here's what you can do. One, you can donate today at blackpowerblueprint.org, and let's all help keep the donations coming through December 31st. Two, you can host your own fundraiser on Facebook and win your own friends and family to donate through the holidays. And for that, you can go to the APEDF, that stands for the African People's Education and Defense Fund, APEDF Facebook page to sign up. Do that now, and you can also donate right now at blackpowerblueprint.org.
Just go to blackpowerblueprint.org.
I just wanted to announce I'm going to put in $15 tonight, which brings us down to 200. Uhuru. And I wanted to ask if we know the current number of people who are watching. All right, so at least 15 people are still watching, and we thank you all for being with us, which means that if everybody watching put in $13 each above what you've already put in, which we thank you for, then we would surpass our goal. Oh, 10 on YouTube, so 25 people total, so even less.
Go to blackpowerblueprint.org. I also want to say that we are, not just asking for a stand of reparations in terms of resources, but also calling on you to join. You can be a member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and you can also actually participate in what is the Black Power Blueprint Reparations campaign that organizes these webinars every week or quite often. You can be part of this. We have so many different jobs in this committee. Or, there's other work as well. And this organization, the Black Power Blueprint Reparations Campaign, is directly under the leadership of Deputy Chair Yeshitela. It's very exciting. So if you would like to join this actual work, you can go to join@blackpowerblueprint.org. So that's very simple, join@blackpowerblueprint.org. And there's all kinds of things. If you are into social media, we have plenty of work for that. If you can do videos, if you can help do outreach, there's just so many things that you can do. Anything that, any talent, any skill that you have, you can turn it over as part of a stand of reparations. So go ahead and do that. Email us at join@blackpowerblueprint.org or donate, give reparations tonight at blackpowerblueprint.org.
Give reparations tonight like Paula Lipsy, who just put in $25. Uhuru to Comrade Paula. That means tonight we have, and by we I mean everybody who's participating in this, have raised $602 of our $777 goal, and that means $175 left to raise. So go to blackpowerblueprint.org.
We can do this. We're going to do it.
We know we can. We've done it before. We have the momentum. We're here with the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, Director Akile Anayi of Agitprop of the African People's Socialist Party. If ever there was a time to dig deep and really give, tonight is the night. And you can do that at blackpowerblueprint.org. Yes. Uhuru. So I think now we're going to turn it back over to Director Akile. Uhuru.
So we are still with Chairman Yeshitela, but before we come back to closing this interview, I want to call on all of our workers have done. If you are in the St. Louis area, you can join the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, or you can bring a speaker to your area and organize your friends to come out. We must get active to have freedom and independence in our lifetime. It's so important for all of us to join this campaign, and you can email that same email at join@blackpowerblueprint.org. Again, that's join@blackpowerblueprint.org. Join this campaign today. Donate to blackpowerblueprint.org. And I'm going to go ahead back to the chairman and ask if you have any last words to close out this amazing webinar.
Uhuru, first I would just like to really express appreciation to the organizers of this webinar and to the people who are participating on the other side of this camera, who are making your contributions to the Black Power Blueprint Project, to this Giving Tuesday. I think that it's a very courageous act that you're taking with this. It is a critical fight in the struggle against colonialism, and I say it's courageous, and evidence of the fact that it takes a lot of courage. It can be found in the reality that we have not yet won the majority of the people to do this. If it were easy to do, everybody would be on board. But it's not easy. And so you are functioning as a kind of vanguard that helps to give permission to all of those other people who are out there to do what many of them, I'm convinced, recognize would be the right thing to do. So I want to thank you all for that. And I want to unite with Comrade Akile's call to Africans to also contribute to this project. I know that you do a lot, especially there in St. Louis, that outside of this kind of work, this kind of activity, I mean, it is your support that provides security for our movement, our party, our work, our institutions there in St. Louis, and that's mobilizing people to come and join our movement there on the ground. And that is something that's happening in at a very good pace. So I want to thank all of you for this participation. And I hope that, if nothing else, this webinar on tonight contributed to helping everybody to understand that we can have a different kind of world if we step forward, if each of us would assume our own responsibility to step forward to participate in changing the world, and to do so under the leadership of the advanced detachment of the African working class, which is the African People's Socialist Party. So I want to thank everybody. Thank you again. Uhuru, we are winning.
We are winning.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We've got some more thinking to do.
Yes, so we have a $300 contribution from Carol Ann Cobb. I believe it's Dr. Carol Ann Cobb. I believe.
Yes.
Wow, Uhuru. Dr. Carol Ann Cobb. Wow. And then from Santosh, who is our friend here and a member of Uhuru Solidarity Movement here in St. Pete. Santosh, who's been doing amazing on his own Facebook page, Giving Tuesday today, just put in $25. So we have raised $927.
Yes.
All right, Uhuru. Wow, that is so powerful. We just really want to salute everybody who's put in. We only need $73 more to make 1,000, so somebody can put that in as we close out. And, you know, Jamie, I'm going to let you close out.
Uhuru, I'm overwhelmed. This is incredible tonight. And especially I want to thank Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for creating this. Uhuru. I also want to thank Director Akile Anayi for participating tonight. Uhuru. And we want to thank all of our donors, all of our generous donors. Thank you so much. Because of you, this was possible. And please keep it coming. Anyone who hasn't had a chance to get there yet, blackpowerblueprint.org. Make sure to get your stance on the right side of history in the form of material solidarity tonight. And this is fantastic. We're at $125 over our announced goal, but as Chairwoman Penny said, keep it coming, and we can make it $1,000 tonight. And we want to call on people to do that, to continue donating after the show. And we just have a couple of announcements. You'll be able to hear from us again in the form of the Uhuru Solidarities webinar. Uhuru Solidarity Movement webinar will take place next December 11th. That's Tuesday, December 11th. Look for the next USM webinar. And I believe we have an announcement about an upcoming convention from...
Indeed. Oh, I don't know that. Okay. Uhuru. Well, I want to join in saluting Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Director Akile. Uhuru, thank you so much. And I also want to salute Chairwoman Penny Hess.
Thank you, yes.
Who also coordinates the reparations funding campaign for the Black Power Blueprint, as well as our studio audience. And let's also give a shout out to our great host, Jamie Simpson.
It's a pleasure.
And to Kyle Weiss, who plays an extremely important role in this. Uhuru, Kyle.
Yes, Kyle.
So the announcement, I'll make it really quick. On April 13th and 14th, you can come see for yourself the Black Power Blueprint in real life in St. Louis at the Uhuru Solidarity Movement's National Convention, Saturday and Sunday, April 13th and 14th, 2019. It's where members and supporters of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement from throughout the country and beyond, throughout the world, come to this convention to hear from our leadership, to hear from Chairman Omali Yeshitela, to hear from APSC Chairwoman Penny Hess, and also to report on the work that you all have been doing to build white solidarity with Black power and the mass movement for white reparations to African people. So that's going to be an incredible experience for everyone to be a part of, and it's on April 13th and 14th in St. Louis, Missouri. And I actually am going to turn it over to Akile because I believe we have another announcement from Director Akile.
Yes, Uhuru, and oh yes, I got 2 announcements. So the first announcement that I wanted to make, because we've seen and heard about the Black Power Blueprint and this amazing project and how it's an extension of the work that the African People's Socialist Party has done for almost 50 years. And next month, in December, we are celebrating 50 years of the Burning Spear newspaper. It was founded in 19 in order to participate in the contest, and it ends December 31st at 11:59 p.m. So you could be the winner of the Spear Sales competition. Anybody can participate, and you can have your picture and an article about you in our very own publication of the Spear. And on December 22nd, we'll be right back here with Chairman Omali Yeshitela live from the Burning Spears Facebook and YouTube page, where we'll be doing an in-depth interview on the history and the significance of the Burning Spear newspaper and our own controlled media. And April 6th and 7th in St. Petersburg, Florida, the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations will be hosting its 3rd electoral campaign school, which you all have to participate in. Learn how you can run on a revolutionary platform like the National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination. You can be a candidate and fracture the status quo. Attend this electoral campaign school April 6th and 7th. And you can go to blackisbackcoalition.org for more information about that. Uhuru.
We have a couple more people we want to shout out to. Robert Wood, another $50. Fantastic. And then
Olafin Akimba, $10.
All right. That means a total raise of $987.
Come on.
So
$13.
please keep it coming. Keep it coming.
Come on.
I know of someone who's put in 20 tonight that hasn't quite made it through the notification system. So, yeah. Uhuru. We are winning. I want to thank everyone involved with this.
Thank Chairman Omali Yeshitela again. Wow,
yes.
What a great discussion tonight, as always. And thank Akile Anayi. This has been powerful.
And I want to thank my leadership, Chairwoman Penny Hess of the African People's Socialist Party. And I'm sorry, of the African People's Solidarity Committee. Thank you. Big distinction. And also salute co-host Chair Jesse, also of the African People's Solidarity Committee. And thank everyone out there for tonight. It was absolutely amazing. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up.
$13 more.
$13 more. And we are achieving unity through reparations. Uhuru. We'll see you back December 11th.